David Koch shares control of $115 billion sales Koch Industries with his older brother Charles. Koch Industries has interests in oil pipelines, refineries, building materials, paper towels and Dixie cups, and is growing with acquisitions fueled by the company's prodigious cash flow. He's also joined his brother's campaign to raise and spend almost $900 million on political activity, education and issues like criminal justice reform in the run-up to this year's presidential election. Already David has pumped more than $130,000 into Republican causes and PACs, although he and brother Charles have yet to endorse a candidate. They are also active philanthropists. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York has the David H. Koch Plaza, part of a $65 million renovation he funded, and the David Koch Charitable Foundation has made more than $1.2 billion in contributions over his lifetime. One of the most politically influential billionaires in the United States, Charles Koch compares his crusade for smaller government and economic liberty to the Civil Rights Campaign. So far Koch hasn't backed a GOP presidential nominee, but at a February conference for the Koch Network in Indian Wells, California, an official with Freedom Partners Action Fund said they might spend money trying to defeat Donald Trump. Funding for the Koch influence machine comes from $115 billion sales Koch Industries, which Charles continues to steer as chairman. He has held that job since 1967, when the company was worth $50 million. Now the second largest private company in America, it's valued at $100 billion. He owns the vast majority of the business with his brother, David Koch, who runs its chemical technology business. The former New York mayor considered a presidential bid in 2016 before deciding to stick with what he has done since leaving City Hall, run his massive media and data business, Bloomberg LP. Bloomberg has been working to reinvigorate the company, and since returning as its CEO in early 2015, he's shaken up the media part of the business with staff changes and reported layoffs as it has refocused on its core coverage area, business and financial news. He gave up the Oracle CEO job in September 2014, but as chairman of the board Larry Ellison still calls some of the shots at the database software giant. In June 2015 he announced that Oracle was expanding its cloud computing business, putting it in direct competition with Amazon's web services unit. At least one analyst has raised questions about whether the move has been profitable. Ellison started out building databases for the CIA. He founded Oracle in 1977 and tapped into business's growing need for customer relationship management databases. Both of his children are looking to leave their mark on Hollywood. Daughter Megan has financed films such as Zero Dark 30 and American Hustle. Son David is a producer of mainstream franchises like The Terminator and Mission Impossible. Mark Zuckerberg has added nearly $18 billion to his fortune in the past year, as Facebook's stock price shot up by almost 50%. The social network has boosted revenues and profits thanks to growth in mobile advertising and new users. It boasted 1.65 billion monthly users as of April 2016, up 15% from a year earlier. Meanwhile, the company is investing heavily in virtual reality, artificial intelligence and improving global web access. Nearly 2 years after buying virtual reality startup Oculus, Facebook began shipping the Rift VR headset in March 2016. One setback: in February 2016, Indian regulators stopped Zuckerberg's plan to provide free but limited internet access in the country after activists argued it would violate net neutrality and provide the company with unfair advantage. Zuckerberg became a father for the first time in December 2015 and has taken to posting photos of milestones with his daughter, Max, on Facebook. He founded the social network in 2004 when he was 19, and he dropped out of Harvard to move the company to Silicon Valley. Jeff Bezos makes managing 3 companies look easy. In November, his aerospace company Blue Origin launched rocket into suborbit, which landed back on Earth and prompted a Bezos-led champagne celebration and jealous tweets from Elon Musk. In January, he personally flew back reporter Jason Rezaian on his private jet after the Washington Post staffer spent the previous 18 months in an Iranian prison. And that's all while his dominant online retailer Amazon has chugged along, finishing a record 2015 in which it posted more than $100 billion in revenue. Still, it hasn't been all good news. After popping to new heights in 2015, Amazon's share price has fallen in the early months of 2016, after the company missed earnings estimates. It's also had to deal with the fallout from a story in the New York Times in August which detailed the high-pressure, long-hour work environment inside the retailer. In a letter to employees in response, Bezos, who is Amazon's CEO as well as its founder, wrote that he didn't recognize the company described but said that anyone working in a company like that would be crazy to stay. Carlos Slim Helú, the world's second richest man in 2015, hit some headwinds in the past year. Shares of his pan-Latin American mobile phone operator, América Móvil, took a beating in 2015 and early 2016 in the wake of new Mexican telecom regulations, a weaker Mexican peso and economic decline in Brazil. That drove a $27.1 billion drop in Slim's net worth, making him the biggest dollar loser on the 2016 Forbes billionaires list. Slim is the largest shareholder of the New York Times, with a nearly 17% stake. He also owns the majority stake in industrial conglomerate Grupo Carso, financial venture Grupo Financiero Inversa and infrastructure development and operating company Ideal. In his 2016 letter to shareholders, Warren Buffett displayed cheery optimism for America's future, writing that the crop of presidential candidates' negative drumbeat about the nation's prospects is dead wrong. He's certainly been investing with confidence, pulling off his biggest ever deal in August 2015 when his Berkshire Hathaway agreed to pay $37 billion for aerospace and industrial parts maker Precision Castparts. He has also been buying up hundreds of millions worth of stock in energy firm Phillips 66 and has teamed up in various ways with 3G Capital, a firm run by several Brazilian billionaires, in deals involving Kraft Foods, Heinz, Burger King and coffee house chain Tim Hortons. The fifth most valuable corporation in the United States, Berkshire owns companies like Geico, Dairy Queen and Fruit of the Loom, and has significant investments in Wells Fargo, IBM and Coca-Cola. Buffett is one of Hillary Clinton's biggest proponents. He has long supported the former First Lady's bid to return to the White House, donating to her campaign and, in December 2015, speaking at a Clinton rally in his hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. Known for his relative frugality, Buffett still lives in the Omaha home he purchased for $31,500 in 1958. He says his best investment was buying Benjamin Graham's legendary book, The Intelligent Investor, in 1949. Zara founder Amancio Ortega is the richest man in Europe and the wealthiest retailer in the world. He started manufacturing textiles through a small family company in 1963 before co-founding Zara with his ex-wife Rosalia Mira, d. 2013, in 1975. By the mid-1980s, Ortega had expanded throughout Spain, and he opened his first store in America in 1989. As he expanded his empire, which today includes Zara, Massimo Dutti and Pull & Bear, he caught the retail establishment by surprise, limiting advertising, expanding aggressively, and controlling much of his own supply chain. Louis Vuitton fashion director Daniel Pieck once called Inditex possibly the most innovative and devastating retailer in the world. Ortega powered through his country's financial crisis, personally gaining $45 billion from 2009 to 2014 as shares of Inditex defy the rest of the Spanish stock market. He stepped down as chairman of Inditex in 2011 but still hauls in more than $400 million in dividends annually. He has been plowing his spare cash into real estate investments all over the world, including Madrid, Barcelona, London, Chicago, Miami, and New York, amassing a portfolio worth more than $8 billion. Bill Gates has built a reputation as a serious thinker about the world's problems and has steered the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to tackle knotty issues like improving health care and the use of vaccines in developing countries. In December 2015, at the United Nations climate talks in Paris, Gates raised his profile on the global stage when he announced the formation of the Breakthrough Energy Coalition, a group of more than 20 billionaires who have agreed to invest in innovative clean energy. Our primary goal with the coalition is as much to accelerate progress on clean energy as it is to make a profit, Gates said at the time. Gates recruited the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, Chinese e-commerce billionaire Jack Ma, and Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man, to join the coalition. Gates owns roughly 2.5% of Microsoft, which accounts for just under 15% of his fortune. Some of his other investments include stakes in Canadian National Railway, Deere & Co., waste collection outfit Republic Services and hygiene and water technology firm Ecolab. In October 2015, Gates reportedly invested in Impossible Foods, a startup that is creating plant-based foods that taste like meat but use fewer resources to produce.